Straight from the Couch with Dr. Lovely of the Lovely Lady Magazine, and I am Dr. Lovely. And today we have the beautiful, the talented, and the strong woman in our studios on today, Miss Lakeisha McClinton. And she's our first ever guest, and we're so excited to have her here to tell her story of triumph and adversity. So we're so glad to have you here today.
So glad to be here. It's an honor and privilege.
Thank you. So we're going to begin. We'd like you to tell us just a little bit about yourself. So are you a native of Buffalo?
Yes, I grew up in Buffalo, on Buffalo's east side. My grandmother raised us. It was 4 of us. My mother had some mental health challenges. My grandmother was a God-fearing woman. We had the best of a family could have. I was the middle child, spoiled. I really had a great childhood.
That's good. So tell us, what school did you attend?
I attended some Buffalo public schools, and then my grandmother kind of migrated towards Catholic schools. Not sheltering us, just wanting us to provide us with the best. Then I went on to high school, Buffalo public schools. Unfortunately, some of my adversities, I didn't get to finish high school, and later went on to get my GED.
Good, but you finished it.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
And that's what this segment is all about. So I heard that you mentioned that you grew up in a God-fearing home, a church background. So on that note, can you remember learning about that narrow is the road to God and wide is the road to destruction? So with that being said, can you kind of elaborate on how you might have ended up on that wide road that kind of tripped you up and got you into some areas of adversity?
My grandmother, it's funny you asked me that because I was thinking about that this morning, how every Sunday, every Tuesday, every Friday we were in church. We were involved in church very heavily, and this wasn't forced on us. This is something that it was learned behavior and that we've grown to love. And I'm grateful for my grandmother instilling God in me because my spirituality was based upon a child.
Yes.
And that's all I've ever known. And I believe through my adversities, that's what carried me. My grandmother, there was no molestation, there was no beatings, there was no drinking. We didn't see that side of the world at all. I experienced that with my own eyes as I went from the household home to my own. My grandmother, she taught us the Bible. I can remember in the front room having church services when we wasn't even at church, and it was like her grandkids, and it was a lot of us, not just 1 or 2. So the adversities that I brought upon myself basically was just being in the streets and wanting to fit in and just trying to have a good time, and taking it seriously, it led me to a road that has made me the woman that I am today, a strong woman. To look back at the dark times, when I think about the dark times, yes, there's still some trauma there, but through it all, I believe that if my grandmother hadn't took us to church at such an early age, that I wouldn't have gotten over that. And some days I still pull that from within myself, and I get over the trauma.
Right. Great. So let's talk a little bit about the addiction, because on this road, you struggle with addiction. So let's talk a little bit about the addiction and what kind of addiction it was.
Kind of like, I wouldn't say promiscuous, I would say wanting to do exciting things and to go out and have fun, hang out, smoke weed, drink. I had an older sister, me and her would go out together to different bars, and she was kind of like my hangout partner. She was a couple of years older than me. And once she became a parent and she stopped hanging out, I still wanted to hang out. And I hooked up with the wrong crowd, and I've always liked nice things because my grandmother raised us with nice things. I can remember at the age of 9 having my first Louis Vuitton bag, literally, and I followed those things, and my dream was to become a model. I wanted to become a model, and I can remember saying to myself, one day I'm going to get on a plane or a train and I'm going to go out of this town and be a model. Well, at the age of 18, I started to use drugs, and I hid it from my family. And I thought I hid it from my family because I'm pretty sure they can see it on me. Because one thing about the drugs, and cocaine was my drug of choice. One thing about drugs and addiction, you don't stay the same. You don't look the same, you don't act the same, especially your weight and your hygiene and everything goes, because that takes it away from you. It has power over you, total power over you. And I can remember at the age of 19, me getting on a bus with no money and going to Atlanta, Georgia, and so that I would not be around my family and they wouldn't see me using. And they probably had their speculations, but they didn't know the severity of my addiction by that time.
Okay, so can you tell me how long? I know you said probably around 16. So how long were you bound by the addiction?
Well, when I started dibbling and dabbling with cocaine, I probably was around 19 when it got really serious. And I can remember like a little wake-up call, because I had some trauma and some life events between the age of 19 and 27 that were horrific. Death, near experiences, staying in abandoned houses, dealing with drugs, and I've been to prison before. I went to prison in Atlanta, Georgia for trafficking in the airport, and I was caught, and I did 4 years in prison. And through it all, I just remember that it was a party in the beginning, and then it became a necessity, and then it became an addiction, and then it was just out of control. So I would say 18 years of my life I dedicated to that drug.
Wow. So I heard you say that you had some near-death experiences. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you did experience while you was on the street? How did you live some of those near-death experiences?
I can remember one time that I was leaving a job that I was working on, a dancing job. I was a entertainer, dancer, stripper. No way to make it cute. But it was probably about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had a car that would start, and I got offered a ride by 3 gentlemen, and I took the ride, and I got in the back seat with one of the guys because he was friendly all night, and they stopped at the gas station, and I was tipsy, and they got out, they bought items, and when they got back in, the exit that they were supposed to take me on, they never even tried to go on the exit. They just kept going on the expressway, and they put a gun out, and told me to sit back and relax. And when I looked at the handles, there was no handles on the door. And all I could think about was, I'm about to die. And the window on my side was down about this much. And at the time, as I told you, drugs had took a toll over my body. I've always been thin, but I probably was about 90 pounds. And I had on a little slinky dress. My back was out. And I can remember just being so afraid. And I left my purse and everything. And I squeezed through this window about this much space on an expressway going about 60 miles an hour. And when I fell on the side of my shoulder, and I have a scar. I broke my collarbone, and my back was pink. And I ran up an exit, and when I got up there, I ended up back at that same gas station. And when I ran inside, the people were screaming because I was covered in blood. And I can remember waking up in the hospital, and my addiction had progressed so heavy that when they fixed my wounds and gave me a sling, I left probably about 5 hours later to go use drugs because it had progressed to that, the extent to that matter.
I understand. So can you also tell us what are some of the things that you may have done to feed the addiction?
Well, after, you get so thin and you're a stripper, nobody wants to see a bag of bones. Lost all the weight, so I figured I wasn't a good thief because I've never had to steal anything, and that wasn't my thing. So I figured a fast way and an easy way I could get money because I still was cute, if I used my body. So I prostituted myself for many years.
So did you, in that time, of course I know that there are feelings that are involved. How did you, not growing up this way, not having this be a behavior that was even the way that you were taught, how did you numbing. How did you get past it? What did you do to enable you to just continue to prostitute yourself or whatever you needed to do to get the drug?
Drugs and alcohol. A lot of times, if I even knew I was going to go sleep with somebody for some money, I got drunk. So that I wouldn't even have the feeling of, oh my God, what am I doing? Oh my, this is disgusting. No, because the disease of addiction gives you addictive behaviors, and it makes you forget about morals, respect, your worth. It makes you forget that.
Understand. So while you were out there in that world, you found out something. You found out that you ended up pregnant.
So I came back. I originally came back to Buffalo, and how I came back after prison, I discovered that my family had put a missing persons report on me. And I got out of prison, and I moved into a lady that took me in from prison. She let me stay with her, and I came back to Buffalo and stayed with my pastor and his wife. And I found out that I was pregnant, and I probably was about 3 months, and I was very, very, very afraid for me to bring an addicted baby into this world. So I called an uncle, my mother's brother, and he lived outside of Buffalo in Canandaigua, and he took me in.
Right.
So I stayed with him my full term,
Right.
clean, and I had a healthy baby girl, and 8 pounds, and she was my world. I had my own apartment, I acquired my life back, and when she was 7 months, I relapsed.
Wow. So what happened? You moved away. You got yourself out of the environment that you were in. And now you have this healthy, beautiful baby girl. And what caused the relapse? This is just so that you can help those that are out there that are suffering in this area to be careful with. What caused your relapse?
What caused my relapse was not attending to my disease.
Okay.
That's like any disease. If you don't treat it, it can become fatal, it can kill you. And what it did was it made me go back to what I like to do. Like today, I don't do what I love to do. What I love, I stay away from because it's totally bad for me. So what I know is I was not going to meetings. I did not know sober people. I went right back to the people that I knew. Let me go see my friends. They're getting high and they're using, so I used. I did not know any sober people because I did not know anything about, I've never been to a rehab, ever. I've never been to a rehab. I didn't know that meetings existed, that people lived sober, healthy lives with their families and their children. I didn't know that. So I believe that that relapse is not a part of my story today. But then if I had known about meetings and that I could get help and people could help me stay sober, I totally would have been for it.
So with that being said, now you had this changed life and you relapsed. What did it do to your now motherhood, to this changed life, everything that you have built? What did it do?
I can remember coming here on a Saturday asking my oldest sister, can you babysit for me? And then never returning. Leaving a 7-month-old baby in a house full of furniture to go to an abandoned house to use drugs. And that took me on another 4-year run. Because when I came back, and how my disease had me, I didn't steal from my family, I didn't borrow from my family, they just didn't see me. Because the shame and guilt and my pride got the best of me, and I just disappeared. I made myself invisible, so I thought. Because even if I seen them, I wouldn't even go to them, and ask for things to support my addiction. I just got everything the way I knew how to get it, the hustle in the streets to get it. And I left my baby and came back when she was 4. And when I came back, it was a different look for me because I no longer can be selfish because here I was looking at this little girl in her eyes who was calling me mommy and looked just like me. And it was like I had to wake up and grow up and just try to stay sober so that I could become a healthy mom and a good mother.
So would you say that time that you spent away from her, even though you were heavily addicted, would you say that you stayed away simply because you could not be the best mother?
No, it was hard. It was many nights of a lot of pain, a lot of tears. A lot of the times that it was wasted money because the high wasn't right, because it was like all I could think about was my baby. And it was like a phone, you pick it up and you call, and then you just hang up because you had a frog in your throat. It was many nights that I can remember one Pacific Christmas of going shopping, buying all this stuff and dropping it off on the drawer because I didn't have the guts to not.
Feeling as if you would be judged. Different things like that. Wow. That's big. That really is. It's really. So it's safe to say that at this point, seeing your baby after 4 years, enough was enough.
Oh yeah.
When was enough enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was beautiful when I seen her. It was like no child and family services was involved. It wasn't like I was stripped of my rights. My sister was my backbone, my everything. She held me down. The true meaning of a ride or die, you know, and it was like I didn't skip a beat. But I know that I had to stay strong for this little girl, and I know that I can make her better and she can make me better. And you know, that's where I stand today.
That's good.
Yeah.
So now you're on the journey to being clean. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. How was it? What did you do?
So I came back when my daughter was 4, and I remember my last run in Buffalo. I got arrested. I got into a car with the undercover, and the undercover clearly was, saved my life because he propositioned me. I said yes, and then they slapped cuffs on me, and I ended up in jail. I went to jail. I was about 90 pounds. I was done. I was so tired. They asked me if I wanted to go for rehab. Absolutely not, because that wasn't my thing. My thing was just going to jail. You know, I would figure, how much time are you going to give me? You're going to give me 3 months? Good. I go get some weight up and I go back out and do my thing. That was my cycle. So this time the lady asked me, well, why don't you just try a halfway house? And one of the girls told me, well, you can turn dates there. You can do everything there and have your own. They won't even bother you. And that was my plan. Okay, this is good. I can go here and still do my thing, and I don't have to be homeless. So God had something different for me because I went and I didn't have anything when I went, just the clothes on my back. And I had on flip-flops, shorts, and a shirt that was too big for me, and I tied them in the knot on the side. And I went into this house, and these ladies gave me love, and there was 6 other women staying there, and I had my own room. And I can remember a lady asking me, hey, have you ever been to a meeting before? I didn't know what that was. And when I went, I had spent 30 days in jail, so that made me have 30 days clean. And when I went, they asked us, did anybody have any clean time here? 30 days, they started at 30 days. And I went up there, and those people hugged me, and I see another lady celebrated after me, and she had 20 years. And I was like, how in the world did she get 20 years? And they said, like, one day at a time, come here.
Yeah.
You know? So my role started there. I stayed in that house for about a year. And until I got the feel of how I wanted my life to go out. I wanted to go to school. I enrolled at school in 6 months. I can remember going to school and not knowing how to turn a computer on. I didn't know how. I was sitting next to people and they were like, you don't know how to turn a computer on? Because I had used drugs for 18 years. I wasn't into no classroom, you know?
So life is obviously was changing for you at that time. So then I understand that you found love. But you found love with some struggles. Tell us about that.
When I was 6 months clean, I met a guy at a meeting. And this is just for someone in early recovery that I would give a suggestion to, not to get into a relationship until you can learn how to love yourself. Because if you've been using for 18 years, you don't know how to love yourself yet, 6 months clean. You're going to fall back to the old addictive behaviors. I've always used men. I never liked to work because I like expensive things and nice things. And I figured that I can get it like that if I get it from a guy. So what I did was I married a guy, And I married for all the wrong reasons. I married because he had his own house. It was going to be a good look. He spoiled me and gave me everything. I didn't have to pay for anything. And then he used. And then I covered it up for 2 years. Because it was hard to tell my family that he was using, and I was miserable. When every time I came around, they would say, "You're doing such a good job. I'm so proud of you." I was like, I have to keep this image. But at home, I was struggling, locking myself in a room, watching him through a peephole use, and being a prisoner in my own home, in my own body, you know?
Wow. And, you know, just with that being said, you're exactly right. You have to do what you have to do. You have to learn to love yourself before you try to open up the doors to those kinds of things. But you made it out. You know, you guys ended up marrying and then divorcing.
Yes.
So you spent that time to just heal with yourself.
Yes.
To heal, yes, and that's a perfect thing. So now you're here. And how long have you been clean?
7 years.
7. Is that 7 to you now significant to because I know you grew up in church, the number of completion?
Yes, it is.
It's finished.
It's finished.
That's right.
And I had to learn how to love myself first. And I've remarried. But before I remarried, I had to take it back old school and date him, court him. It was a struggle to sleep over to his house and not get intimate.
Yes.
But it was a struggle in my head because I've always made myself to believe if I sleep with you, you're going to pay my car note, you're going to pay my gas bill, you're going to pay my nails, I'm going to use you. So to protect his heart and mind, because I knew he was a good guy and I'm a good girl. Mm-hmm. So to protect us, I tried something different, and I'm glad I did because it wasn't like, oh, I got the goods, you're going to have to wait on this. No, it was like, I'm protecting us.
Yes.
Because I don't want to fail, and I wanted to win with the love. So we dated for 4 months, you know, and then I was like, okay, I like this guy. And then he's saying, okay, this girl's independent, because I never had no girl tell me, no, I don't need no money to get my hair and nails done. Yes. And that was, because I would say no and then go somewhere and be like, oh, why did I do that? And still struggle, but it felt good because I didn't know what it felt like to pay my own bills.
Right.
And I had 3 jobs doing that.
Wow.
Never did I before.
Wow.
But I needed to know that I could do this and love a man not for his money.
You needed to know you could stand on your own 2 feet and love yourself
at the same time.
And I'm sure in this time that you were bonding with your daughter and the relationship there. So at this point you were living the life and everything was coming together. And that's what's awesome. And I hear that this guy that your new husband is such a loving,
so
caring, and spiritual man.
Yes.
And that's what's important too. Spiritual how important is it having God be the center of your relationship?
You have to have God, because some days we both are confused. So we don't ask another married couple. We ask God. If we have a problem, we pray about it, and we go on with our daily lives. And at the end of the day, when flesh is touching flesh, we look at each other and say, did he do it? Or it's getting better.
That's right.
And we compare yesterday to today, and we say, it's happening. And we just keep God in our relationship no matter what. Because if you don't have God in your relationship, nothing good is going to grow out of it.
That's right. God is the center.
Yes, he is.
So, you know, you've come a long way now at this point. And it's been 7 years. And as I look at your credentials, I'm looking at it's only been 7 years. But you've accomplished so many things in just less than 7 years that some people haven't done all their lives. And I know that you credit God for giving you the strength to be able to do this. So I want to share with our audience what her credentials are. She received her associate's degree in business. She then went back to school and received a bachelor's in business and in marketing. She received KSAC degree in substance abuse and counseling. Can you tell the people that may not know what a KSAC is, what that is?
KSAC is a credential from the offices of OASIS for drug and alcohol abuse along with mental health, to work with the client, to do treatment planning, to do housing, to do do I'm also trauma informed, certified to help a person with addiction get over their addiction as well as their addictive behaviors, certified through the Oasis office.
All right, yes. And like she said, she's trauma-informed certified and currently back in school attending her master's program. She has 3 businesses. One is a store, a clothing store called Kiki's New and Used Apparel, where you can get cute on a budget. And she also has a second store, which is called King and Queen's Apparel, and it's for latest fashions. And she also has the Safe House of Buffalo. Can you tell us about the Safe House?
So the Safe House is designed to give you all of your needs. So my program is designed to give you housing for 3 to 6 months. So this means you're going to be pushing. You're not going to be sitting around. You can do your own self-help. Our goal is by the end of the 6 months to have you in a house, to have you talk to advocates and family court to get your children back, to have all your physicals up to date, all those teeth pulled out, everything that you need to get back into the swing of life and to get back on your feet.
Wow, that's awesome. So you basically, from your education on down to what you're doing with the Safe House, you're giving back.
Yes.
You know, you've taken your experiences and the things that you had to deal with in life, and you're pouring back into women that are just like you, or who used to be, or who you used to be like, and that is awesome. This is truly a woman of great strength and power. This is truly a woman that has taken the face of her adversity and turned it around. She's found triumph in the midst of her adversity. And for that, you know, we praise you. You know, you have strength and you have power, and you know, you're somebody to be looked up to. And I know you probably don't look at it that way, but everything that you've been through is a benefit to somebody else. So she's now paying it forward and being able to help somebody else. So is there anything before we go that you want to, you know, basically talk to anybody that's out there that may feel like, you know, life is over, they went too far, and that they can't make it or they can't succeed? Is there any advice that you can give them?
I would say that if you have been through some trauma or some adversities, and if you are struggling now, the best thing that you can do, as I said earlier, is the self-help. That's an NA meeting or an AA meeting, because people with addictions, we are more alike than different. And the trauma that you have, you might be sitting next to someone holding in a secret, and if you tell it, or it's holding in something that you're going through and you tell it, the only thing they're going to say to you is, me too, you too, because they probably are going through the same thing or have been, and they can help you. So I just want to let you know that self-help is best. Help yourself to get off of your pity party, or if you're going through addictions, get some help, because you got it in you and you can do better.
That's awesome. Well, we thank you for being here. We thank you for being our first ever guest.
Thank you. I'm so honored.
We thank you, and best of luck to you with your daughter and your husband and all your many businesses. The best of luck to you. The best of luck to you. So this has been Straight from the Couch with Dr. Lovely, and we thank you for viewing, and you have a good day.